Hi everyone, thanks for joining in. And we're going to share on the experience of kayak-based cleaner. I'm Kian Seng, one of the Leaf No Trace Master Educator with Better Trails. Together with this session is Felicia, supporting a virtual experience. We'll be having Q&A at the end of the sharing, and do feel free to post any question under the comments. All right, let's launch. For those who just get to know Better Trails, we are a social enterprise founded to promote outdoor ethics. It's about making better decisions to outdoor responsibly through environmental education and outdoor recreation. So we'll follow along with this sequence to share about the people and places and how Leaf No Trace can be applied on an adventure setting, as well as the marine debris that the team have discovered and encountered. I would like to also acknowledge the organizer of the kayaking expedition that I ran off, which I'm privileged to be part of. It's actually organized by Island Trails Network. They are a non-profit organization for nature conservation, looking after the Kodak archipelago in Alaska. All right, so this is the team that I'm with, and I'd like to also introduce them. That's Bill, Brad, and Jackie. And our project director is Tom. So Island Trails Network, they actually have a lot of environmental conservation projects. One of them is the marine debris removal. Suyak Island is the one key site they actually look after. And this is also where the exhibition embarked to. In the summer of 2016, the team went there for over 2 weeks period, paddling along the coast of Alaska and stockpiling the trash that we collected. So from June to September during the summer, there's different batches of volunteers coming in from different parts of the world. Every 2 weeks, there'll be a switch in the team. So my team is the smallest team with about 5 of us, and collectively, all the volunteers actually managed to retrieve and remove about 16,000 kg of marine litter, covered about 83.5 kilometers of coastal shorelines along the island. So this is how it's been done. So every day we'll be paddling to different parts of the coast, bringing back the trash to the nearest shoreline, and we'll stockpile them. So why do we want to stockpile? Because the team, the kayakers, are actually on a trip to remove and stockpile, so that another team will come in by the boat and bigger vessels to remove them. You might be wondering, so where is Suyak? So Suyak is actually about off the northern part of, the southern part of Alaska. And I need to get to Los Angeles from Singapore to Anchorage, the city in Alaska. Somewhere here, you can see the mouse. And from Anchorage, we need to take a plane to Kodak Island. And this Kodak Island is famous for fishing, recreation. And from here in Kodak, we'll take a seaplane to Suyak. So this is how Kodak Island looks like. So when I first arrived at Kodak, the volunteers will get to experience homestay for a few days with the locals. And I love the homes there. Almost every homes have kayaks or seaplanes. How amazing, yeah? And from Kodak, we need to take the seaplane. This is how the berth for the seaplane look like. And it's about 1 hour seaplane ride to Suyak. So this is on the way in the air, in the sky to Suyak Island. So once arrived at Suyak Island, okay, we got to offload our gears and our supplies to the ranger station. So on Suyak Island State Park, there is a ranger station, and that is also where the kayaks are also pre-transported to by the bigger ships and boats. So the first 2 days is about prepping ourselves, preparing the gears with the comfort of the ranger station. They have a nice kitchen and space for us to reorganize what we need for the 2 weeks of expedition in the wilderness. And we will camp up outside the ranger station like this. All right. On an island, okay, this is the only toilet, composting toilet man-made that is available beside the ranger station. And after this, we got to do it in the wilderness. I'm going to show you how we do it later on. So Leave No Trace is a set of principles and primarily built on 7 of them. And it's a way, as a guide to help us to make a better decision to enjoy outdoor responsibly. And there are 3 here: awareness, trainer, and master educator. So hopefully today that you are LNT aware, if you'd like to learn more, you can join the training course and it will be conducted by our team of master educator. Plan ahead and prepare. So the trip already start before I get to US. So in Singapore, I need to do a lot of planning, preparation, and gear. So we need to think about what food to bring and how to keep the food. So in terms of US, especially Alaska, is a bear country. So the food that we bring over to Alaska have to be bear proof. So this is an example of how we can secure the food using bear canister. And for the equipment, I bought a lot of stuff over there, but eventually we have to really be mindful about what we need. So because what we can pack in the kayak is all that we can have during the journey. So this is part of the preparation of the kayaks, or what we need to put in: tents, camping equipment, cooking equipment, supplies, water. So for me, I actually prepared a lot of spare torches, spare batteries. But on the first day at Alaska, I realized that they have a longer daytime. So the sun set at 11 p.m. Like for today in Alaska, the sun set at 11 p.m. and the sunrise at about 5 a.m. So I was thinking, okay, since we have a longer daytime, I don't really need so much batteries. So I just pack a few batteries and move on to the journey. For the footwear, in the email before the trip, the organizer asked us to prepare boots. So I was thinking, okay, I have a bootie with quite a thick sole. But when I was there, okay, no way the boot's going to survive, or rather my bootie is going to survive all this terrain. So they actually have prepared a few more kind of super boots, which something like that. In Singapore, we usually get to see them doing at fish markets, but these are really tough boots that can endure the thrashing of the stones. Navigation. So out there in the wilderness, we do have GPS as well as sea chart. So to know how to navigate, we got to first practice how to read sea chart. Towing. The trip is actually going to have a selection process. The organizer will look through your competency of kayaking background, so that we can manage the currents and the wind. Not only we need to paddle, but we need to paddle with a spare boat, because we need to tow the additional gear in another kayak to different camping sites around the coast. Travel and camp on river surfaces. So in wilderness, the trails that we get to walk on usually is made by the wildlife over there, the deers, the bears. So as we walk on, explore around, we have to stick the trails, not to avoid another creation of the path, rather to avoid creation of another path. Yeah. Camping at the ranger station is pretty much easy because there's already established surfaces. But when we get to the other parts of the islands, other coastlines, it's pristine environment. So what you get to see is all the pretty mosses, pristine flowers, eco-habitat. And we really need to decide where to pitch our tents. So for us, we get to select a few sites with a bit of more durable surfaces, and that is where we actually focus on. And as we pitch the tents, we also need to take note of the distance. How far is it away from the river and the lake? Because that is where the lake, that's where the deers and the wildlife will get to for drinking. So if you are too near, those sources of water, we might affect their behavior. So there's a guideline. Live no trace recommends 60 meters away from river and streams. We are lucky to find a space on one part of the island with fallen trees, and that site actually made a good area for kitchen. So we set up our kitchen area there, and there's a saying that good campsites are found and not made. Dispose waste properly. We are there to help to dispose away, but at the same time, we are there for an adventure, and how we practice our behaviors and actions will need to include this as well. So how do we dispose our own waste, the waste that we generate? So this is like a day pack for snacks that I will usually bring out on any day. So one bag will be the granola bars that is not yet taken, and another bag is for the one that are used. So there's our trash, and there's one that is for the food. And we will practice pack it in and pack it out, even all the way back to the coded town. So pack our own trash as well. For food, cooking is a beautiful experience out there in the wilderness. So after coming back of a hard day work, we get to cook, all right? And the food that we eat are pretty much canned food. Some are fresh supplies like vegetables that we bring back from the town. So no matter what food that we eat, especially like with strong sauce, like canned food, we need to wash them. So after washing them, then we can keep them securely in another bag. This will actually avoid the scent to attract any wildlife around. So besides the food waste, packaging waste, yes, the human waste, how do we manage it? So up there in the environment, there's no toilet. Nature, we really need to work with nature. So this is cat hole. Back in Singapore, we probably can't practice this, but back at Alaska, I'm glad that I'm able to practice this almost every day. So it's always an adventure to look out for spots that are safe and suitable for the cat hole. It's actually digging a hole to dispose our pools, and there's a way to do it safely and effectively. So sign up our training course to get to know more. All right. Leave what you find. Usually, along the way, we're going to see a lot of interesting items, man-made and natural. So this is one of the interesting finds that we get to see. It actually looks like the otter, part of the otter, because over there, there's a lot of wild otters swimming around. You probably won't bring this back home, but what about this skull of an animal? It looks beautiful. So one of us, one of the teammates, Brad, is actually a school teacher. So I was thinking, oh, this make a good specimen to show the students how the skull of the otter looks like. So I shared with him about the principles of leave no trace. Maybe we can pass on the gift of discovery to let other kayakers that comes by the same area to also enjoy this view. So he viewed it and he actually put it back. Minimize campfire impacts. Up there, it's cold. Even though it's summer, the temperature waver about 9 to 12 degrees. It's still a bit cold. So that doesn't make an excuse to make campfire, because we can actually avoid that by wearing more layers. So back there, I actually wear at least 4 layers every day. And at night, we will tuck in our sleeping bag, and sleeping bag need to be of a certain temperature, less than 10 degrees. So that will avoid creating a fire. But sometimes when it get really too cold, okay, we get to our kitchen to do some cooking using firewood. And before I move on to the slide to show you how we do it, this is actually a picture of the open concept kitchen by the river or by the sea. Yeah. When it's low tide, we get to cook out there, making use of the driftwoods and set up the tabletop, benches. And when we do this, we also need to be mindful about how to depart this campsite after we are ready to go. So we'll actually bring back, or rather put back all the driftwood and whatever back to where we found them. So this will actually create a more natural setting and also let the tree food be disposed more in a natural kind of habitats for them to decompose. Now, for the cooking, there's a saying that if we can avoid fire, we avoid, all right? And this is how we cook using gas. And the food that we eat, okay, not just instant stuff, we really get to cook. One of teammate, Bill, is really a good chef. So he actually helms the kitchen every day, and we just help to prepare, do the chopping. Back in the kitchen, which is nearer to the campsite, we have a tent, and this tent actually shelters us from rain. We do get rain in Alaska during the summer. So when we have this, it's actually an assurance for us that we get warm, get our fire going to cook, even if it's raining out there. So we need to actually prepare steak, twig, okay, in advance of any wet weather. So we'll select them in terms of smaller than our wrist. So there's a saying to choose firewood that is smaller than the wrist of the diameter of the wrist, so that we can actually burn into ashes. In the middle, you get to see a pot, and that is actually resting on a firewood stove. So we burn the firewood and there's heat, and that will also boil the pot or cook the meal that we need. Respect wildlife. There's a lot of principles for different traits are interconnected. So example, respect wildlife. How does it connect to another principle? Say example, dispose waste properly. Because example, this is like when we are having a rest during lunchtime, having our food. So a typical food for us out there in the field is usually granola bar and PB&J sandwiches. So when I was there, I heard of PB&J. What's that actually? So PB&J means peanut butter jam. So that also become a classic takeaway for our lunch. So as we are eating all these snacks, we sometimes might unintentionally drop our food, and these food crumbs can attract and become a food source for the wildlife. So in terms of disposing our food, keeping our food is also a way to respect the wildlife. Berries, blueberries. It's amazing to see so much blueberries in that pristine condition of the shores and around Alaska. But that does tempt us to have and taste it, because the temperature is so cool. The berries is cool to touch. But we know that these berries are actually the source of food for other residents. So we actually didn't even have one of it to try. Okay, we will just take our supplies of that we prepared, because these foods are actually important to keep for who? For them, for the bears. So we get to see bears. Unfortunately for me, I didn't witness them. I only witnessed the bear scats, which is the pool. But my teammates and some other volunteers, they actually get to see them from far. So this is one of the picture that they actually saw them along the coast, where we were picking up the litter from a distance. So the brown bears are actually quite common over there, and the food that we are keeping, we need to keep them securely as well. So how do we keep them securely? And this is how we set up the bear bag. So bear bag is a way to keep food away from wildlife. And for us, we need to adopt the pulley systems. Why so? Because we need to be high enough for the bear. So when they actually tiptoe, they can't reach the bag of foods. For us, we have our 2 weeks of supplies, everything in these 2 bags. If you notice, the height, okay, is pretty high. So every morning we got to hose them down, and at night we got to hose them up. It's tough work to do this. It's because it's very heavy, and we know it's important to do this to protect the food away from the wildlife. That's a saying that a fat bear is a big bear, because that will affect their behavior in hunting if they get to the food easily. So be considerate to other visitors. Every day we work about 9 to 9. Okay, 9 a.m. we start paddling out. 9 p.m. we get back, have dinner, and after dinner, it's pretty much our own time. Jackie, one of the teammates, she's an early sleeper, so after dinner she'll crash in the tent and sleep. So what about the rest? So even though we are still energetic, there's a principle we always try to practice, be considerate to other visitors, not just our teammate, but also to the other wildlife around. Because at night, that's where the deers will come out for food. So we won't have any music blasting. Okay, we just take our storybooks, journals to read. So if really you're still having the urge to move around to explore, okay, what I do usually, I'll just walk by to a spot where I can see the moon. So over the period while we were camping is about full moon period, so we get to see a very beautiful sight of the wilderness with the moonlight. And this is actually very surreal. Up there in the wilderness, you don't see anyone, just you and the teammates, five of us, and the wildlife. So being out there in the wilderness not only is actually a good opportunity to practice different traits, but actually looking into how the nature has been supporting our life and how we have been actually giving back and supporting the land. So how have we been giving back and what's our relationship with nature? So going on this expedition is actually also a journey to witness to the extent of how our human traces have gone beyond the urban areas that we live. Alaska is pretty much pristine, and the coast that we go are in the wilderness. You still get to see a lot of litter, and the litters don't just come from US, they come from different parts of the world. So in this map, we can see how the oceans circulate. So in the world, there are 5 major rotating ocean current. This is the North Pacific patch. Litter from Japan, from Taiwan can get pushed up to US, and from US get to push up to Hawaii also. So this current actually is always on theory. I know them. So I was very excited to get to Alaska and really witness how extensive the current can be. So within the first few days of doing the litter picking, removing the litter, a lot of litters are from Japan. So this is one example. One of the many beer crate that we pick up. How do we know it's from Japan? There's actually the brand there at the bottom. Kirin beer for this. Okay, I'll get to see other brands like Sapporo and things like that. Not just drinks. We also have domestic items like this. Okay, probably a shower foam or body foam, as well as fishing gear. So there are some sharing about how the litters actually float from Japan to US. One story or rather one fact is about the tsunami. So there was a time tsunami happened, a lot of trash, or rather a lot of objects from Japan get drifted to the US. So ALDFG, okay, is abandoned, lost, and discarded fishing gears. About 30 to 50% of litter that we actually pick up from the shore of Alaska are from Japan. Are fishing gear. So they are in different sizes. Okay, so these fishing gear mainly are the nets, and these nets are actually ranging from small size to huge size, and almost half of the time we spend out there is to cut nets, because some of the nets are so integrated into the habitat. Some are actually growing within the soil, growing around the tree branches, things like that. We have to cut them out. So this is bread with the fishing net. They are of different size as well and thickness. Each of us were actually given about 5 knives. So the knife are actually usually get blunted after the first few days or get broken because some of the lines are so thick. some of the items that we pick up is really huge. So if we can't put them into the bag to contain them, we got to just put them into the kayak. And this is the canoe that we have. So the bigger items we'll put in the canoe, the rest will stockpile them at one part of the shoreline, so that the next batch of volunteers that comes in by the boat can pick them up. There are a lot of other pieces of trash. Some of them are so small, bits and pieces, and we need to spend a lot of time squatting down, sitting on one spot to pick them out. So these are the microliters. Microliters are 5 mm or lesser. So these are also the source of food that the albatross, the seabirds are consuming. So if you are aware of marine litter, there are actually a lot of impacts of all these, so which will not be covered today. You can check in our marine litter program if you'd like to know more. A quick one is that the bits and pieces are of different sizes. So this is the bigger piece that we get to find, and it looks like part of a plane. So you can imagine the crew of the passenger of this flight. And the habitat that we are working with, okay, a lot of them have layers of plastic in them. So they are either growing around plastics or they are growing in the structure or the container that are abandoned over there. So like this is actually like a terrarium, a natural made terrarium. Okay. So for the whole experience, there's a lot of time we get to rest and enjoy the wildlife, enjoy the nature. And I'd like to just invite everyone for a moment to just imagine that you have a gust of wind against you. And where does the wind might bring you to? Perhaps somewhere that you have last visited. And would you or have witnessed certain impacts of litter? And how do you think you could have better make a more responsible behavior or action to enjoy the outdoor responsibly? So this is actually one of the favorite photos that one of our teammates took. So on this patch, we're actually getting a very clear view of the mountains around Alaska. And to get here, we have to paddle for a very long time against a current. So for me, I'd like to open up the next 5 minutes if there's any questions before we close the session. So let me just check in with Felicia if there's any question that you might want to share. All right, so we have a question here. Full moon. Well, sometimes when it's full moon, you get to see more wildlife because it's brighter. I didn't get to see werewolf, but I get to see deers. So this is a story about how I actually went to look for a spot, okay, at night to actually relieve myself. Now, at night is a bit more challenging, and I'd like to maybe perhaps bring back to one of the slides that I shared earlier. Okay, so imagine you're around in the open environment like this, and at night you need to look for somewhere suitable to either pee or poo. You have to do it very carefully because there are bears around. So every time as we move around to pick up litter or going for a short trail, we need to have sound to alert the bears, because if we don't, the bears might be surprised and they might endanger ourselves as well. So usually we call out like, hey bear, ho bear, or we have bells with us as we walk. Okay, we create a lot of sound to alert them. So there was once at night, yeah, no werewolf, but there's I was like walking in the night with a headlamp, and I saw a pair of eyes. So eyes was actually popping up from grass level to eye level with me. I was thinking, oh dear, what's that? What could that be? So I froze for a while, and I saw it run off very fast. So that's actually a deer, because I can see with the moonlight casting on the shadow of it, right? Okay, so coming back, we have a next upcoming talk. So next sharing session will be actually by Jia Jian. So he will be actually sharing about his adventure to Mount Everest Base Camp. And this will be happening on next Saturday, same time about 4 p.m. And if you'd like to, please follow us on the Facebook. If you'd like to know more about us and join our programs, this is our social media link, YouTube channel, Facebook, Instagram, and our website. So with this, I thank you for joining us, and hope everyone stays safe and stay adventurous for this period. Thank you.
Kian Seng, there's one more question for you.
Okay, right. Thank you, Felicia, for sharing. So how much litter was collected? So collectively, we have about 16,000 kg of litter by all the volunteers over the 4 months from June to September. And for us, the team, on an average per day, I would say at least about 40 to 50 kg. Some of the litter that we pick up are huge. Example, like fishing buoy, large fishing nets. But these are actually quite hard to weigh. So if I were to give an estimate, at least about 50 kg per day from just the 5 of us. But collectively, the team over the period have about 16,000 of kg. So just now we mentioned about having all these litter being stockpiled somewhere. So Island Trail Network will actually bring them back to the facility to classify them and sort them into different types of marine litter as well. So that's why when we mention about 30 to 50% of marine litter is made out of fishing gear, they are based on research and based on data management. Yeah. Okay. So before we close the session, Felicia, just to check in with you, is there any other questions that we would like to address?
We're good.
All right. Okay, so everyone, thanks for tuning in, and do look out for our next sharing next Saturday.